So this architect in Manhattan had a wife, 2 kids, a nice house on Long Island, and 8 bodies buried along the coast. Rex Heuermann killed women for 17 years and got away with it, until he threw away a pizza box. Cops grabbed it, pulled his DNA, matched it to a crime scene, and arrested him with a burner phone still in his pocket. Last Tuesday, a judge called him a disgusting coward and locked him up for life. No parole. Ever. Rex lived in Massapequa Park, Long Island, a colonial-style house on First Avenue. He commuted to Manhattan every day, where he ran his own architecture firm on Broadway near Times Square. Designed commercial buildings. Filed permits. Met with clients. Went home to his wife, Asa, and their 2 kids. Neighbors described him as quiet. Kept to himself. Mowed the lawn. The kind of guy you'd wave to from across the street and forget about 10 seconds later. And the whole time, according to prosecutors, he was killing sex workers and dumping their bodies along the south shore of Long Island. The stretch of Barrier Beach near Gilgo Beach became a graveyard. Between 1993 and 2010, Rex murdered 8 women, wrapped some of them in burlap, left them in the brush along Ocean Parkway, a desolate ribbon of road flanked by sand, dunes, and marsh. Nobody found them for years. The bodies just lay there in the undergrowth, decomposing in the salt air, while joggers and surfers drove past on their way to the beach. Then, in December 2010, a police officer was out with his dog near Gilgo Beach, not investigating anything, just walking. The dog picked up a scent and led him off the path. They found the remains of a woman. Then another. Then another. Within days, investigators had recovered 4 sets of remains in a quarter-mile stretch along Ocean Parkway. All women. All wrapped similarly. All dumped within a few hundred yards of each other. Suffolk County Police expanded the search. Over the next several months, they found more remains further east along the same barrier island. The body count kept climbing. By the time investigators were done searching, they'd found the remains of 10 people along that stretch of coast. Some were identified relatively quickly. Others took years. The case became known as the Gilgo Beach murders, and it turned into one of the biggest unsolved serial killing investigations in American history. And for over a decade, police had nothing solid. They knew someone was killing women and leaving them along the coast. They knew the victims were predominantly sex workers who had advertised on Craigslist. They knew the killer had used burner phones to contact the women before meeting them. Investigators recovered records showing more than 500 calls to escort services from disposable phones linked to the case. 500 calls from burner phones over years. And they still couldn't figure out who was making them. The case went cold, then warm, then cold again. Multiple police commissioners came and went. Task forces were assembled, reorganized, and reassembled. Suffolk County's handling of the investigation drew criticism for years. At one point, the police chief himself was accused of interfering with the case and faced his own criminal charges unrelated to the murders. The whole investigation was a mess. Tips came in by the hundreds. None of them led anywhere that stuck. The Gilgo Beach killer became a ghost story on Long Island. Everyone knew about the case. Nobody knew who did it. And the families of the victims spent those years in limbo. Some of these women had been reported missing and were never found. Some of them were identified only after their remains were recovered from the beach. Their families had spent years not knowing where they were, then got the worst possible answer. And then they had to sit with the fact that nobody could tell them who did it. For over a decade, no arrest, no suspect, no name. And then, in 2022, a new task force took a different approach. Instead of chasing phone records and tips, they went after DNA. Investigators had recovered a human hair from the burlap wrapping around one of the victims, a woman named Megan Waterman. The hair didn't match Megan. It belonged to someone else, someone who had handled that burlap. And with advances in genetic genealogy, investigators started building a family tree from that DNA sample, working outward through distant relatives until they narrowed it down to a suspect pool. Rex Heuermann's name surfaced. An architect, living on Long Island, married with kids, no criminal record, no prior connection to the investigation. Just a name that fell out of a genealogy database because his DNA was close enough to a distant relative who'd submitted a sample. But close enough wasn't proof. They needed Rex's actual DNA to compare against the hair on the burlap. And they couldn't exactly ask him for a cheek swab without tipping him off. So investigators started following him. They tailed him to work. They watched him walk through Midtown. They sat outside restaurants and waited. The whole operation was built around one thing: getting Rex Heuermann to throw something away. On a day in early 2023, Rex walked out of his Manhattan office and tossed a pizza box into a public trash can on the sidewalk. Investigators grabbed it before anyone else could, pulled DNA from the crust and the grease, ran it against the hair from the burlap. Match. The DNA on Rex's discarded pizza box matched the hair found wrapped around Megan Waterman's remains, a woman who'd been murdered years earlier and dumped on a Long Island beach. That pizza box ended a 17-year manhunt. On July 14, 2023, police arrested Rex Heuermann at a bus stop on Long Island as he was heading home from work. He had a burner phone in his pocket at the time of the arrest. After 17 years of using disposable phones to contact victims, he was still carrying one. I guess old habits die hard, even when the FBI is building a DNA case against you. Now, what investigators found after the arrest made the case even darker. The district attorney told the court that Rex had constructed what he called a kill room inside his Massapequa Park home. A vault-like space, soundproofed, hidden from the rest of the house. The kind of setup that doesn't happen by accident. You don't stumble into building a concealed room in your house. You plan it. You source the materials. You build it while your family sleeps upstairs. Prosecutors described it in court as something out of the TV show Dexter. A space designed for one purpose. If you're still here and want more stories like this, hit subscribe. New ones every week. Rex's wife, Asa, filed for divorce shortly after the arrest. She told reporters she had no idea. She'd been married to him for decades, raised 2 children with him, lived in the same house, where prosecutors say he built a hidden room to kill people. And according to her, she never knew about any of it. Investigators have not charged Asa with anything, and there's no evidence she was involved. And it gets stranger. While Rex was in jail awaiting trial, he started writing letters to Keith Jesperson, the convicted serial killer, known as the Happy Face Killer. Pen pals. 2 serial killers corresponding from their respective cells. I'm not sure what they were writing about, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to know. For nearly 3 years after his arrest, Rex maintained he was innocent. His lawyers challenged the DNA evidence. They questioned the investigation. The case crawled through the courts. Then, on April 8, 2026, Rex walked into court and changed his plea. Guilty to 7 murders. 7 women killed between 1993 and 2010. And, in front of the court, he confessed to an 8th killing that he hadn't even been charged with. a woman named Karen Vergata. He just offered it up. Told the court he killed her too. So, last Tuesday, June 17, 2026, the sentencing hearing at the Suffolk County Courthouse. The courtroom was packed. Family members of victims sat in the gallery. Reporters filled every available seat. Rex appeared in plain clothes, not a jail jumpsuit. Just a regular-looking guy standing in front of a judge. Rex stood before Judge Timothy Mazzei, and Mazzei did not hold back. He looked at Rex and said, "You've been described as a very big man, but you're a disgusting and despicable small man, if you're a man at all. And you're a coward." A sitting judge on the record in open court, calling a defendant a coward and questioning whether he qualifies as a man. The judge sentenced Rex to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. On top of that, 4 consecutive 25 to life terms. Stacked. One after another. The math doesn't matter at that point. Rex Heuermann is never walking out of prison. He will die in a cell. And the families finally got to speak. Victim after victim. Name after name. Women who had been reduced to Jane Does for years, left in the sand along Ocean Parkway, were named in a courtroom by the people who loved them. Mothers, sisters, daughters. Some of them had waited more than a decade for this day. Some had waited nearly 15 years to see someone held accountable. District Attorney Ray Tierney stood up and described the scale of what Rex had done. The burner phones. The careful planning. The disposal sites chosen for their remoteness. The kill room in the family home. Tierney told the court this was not impulsive violence. This was a system, built over years, operated in parallel with a completely ordinary suburban life. And I think that's the part of this case that sticks with people. Rex Heuermann was not living on the margins. He wasn't drifting through life with no connections, no job, no address. He was an architect with an office near Times Square. He had a mortgage, a marriage, children, a daily commute. He went to parent-teacher conferences while the remains of his victims decomposed in the dunes a few miles from his house. He lived 2 lives in the same zip code. For 17 years, he killed women and buried them along the coast. He used burner phones and bought them with cash. He carried on a normal suburban existence while investigators searched for a ghost. And in the end, it was a pizza box. A discarded lunch. The kind of thing a person throws away without thinking. Rex threw away his pizza and gave investigators the one piece of evidence they needed to connect him to a dead woman wrapped in burlap on a beach. 3 life sentences. 4 more stacked on top. No parole. A judge who called him a coward to his face. And a line of family members who finally got to say the names of the women he killed out loud in a courtroom while he stood there and listened. Rex Heuermann is 62 years old. He will spend every remaining day of his life behind bars. And the only reason he's there is because he got hungry one afternoon in Manhattan and didn't think twice about where he put the box. More stories like this on the channel.